Hey everybody, I'm Carolyn from Tranquil Mentor, and this is my watermelon tier tray. I'm so excited. I've always wanted a watermelon tier tray, and I have this in my front room in a tablescape, and I just love the way that it came out. And with that said, let's get into the video and see how we did it. I started out by making these fake faux cupcakes. I've been seeing them a lot. Please don't mind my ugly cupcake tray. It was in the garage with spare screws in it. So for right now, I've got the glass beads from Dollar Tree and just some cupcake liners. And I'm going to put some gloves on. I'll put them on a couple times. And I've got this great stuff, gaps and cracks. And it's just that spray that you repair holes and stuff with. And this is the apparatus that goes with it that the spray runs through. And I'm folding it back on itself to show you that this one is reusable. Not all of them are, but this one is. And it actually did work. And I'm just straightening out the little stem there. What we'll do next is we're going to attach that spray apparatus on top of our can. And then be in a well ventilated area if you can. It's very smelly. And then gloves too, only because it's just really messy and the stuff is oily. So what I'm doing here is not working out very well. I didn't approach this very well. It's like what not to do. So I'm spraying into the cups, and it's really getting all over the place, and I'm stirring it around, and you're not really supposed to do that. What you're supposed to do is shoot into the middle and only fill up maybe even halfway. Just a little amount goes a long way. And then I have all those little tails on there, and it's a mess. But anyway, I'm folding this back again, just showing you real quick that once that's folded back, it's reusable. And I do go back later and try a few more, and I wouldn't even make as many as I made here. I'd try out with a few, but this is what I came out with, and I just worked with what I had in this situation. But you know, I'll learn more. Here's some Model Magic from Dollar Tree. I use this so much for everything. And with this particular cupcake, I'm going to put a little wedge of a watermelon in the top, and I couldn't really find exactly what I wanted without having to order it. So I decided I would go ahead and make it. And in the meantime, while I'm getting all this rolled out, those cupcakes were out in the garage with the door open, and they were drying. And you kind of need to give them the full entire day. I gave them 24 hours to dry. And they'll set up really quick, and they'll look real fluffy and everything, but they were pretty bad. They were very lumpy, and I saw people that would cut them off, cut off the little things that extend out, but I don't know. You'll have to see. It was really crazy, but I will get the hang of it. But here's my rind that I rolled out, and I'm just shaping that around, and that's going to be the outside. That's a little tool that my stepmom gave me from her craft stuff. And I'm just rounding that edge out, and that'll be my outer piece of my rind for the watermelon. And this tool works really good. It's curved, and it makes a good shape for this. So I have a little bit of extra, and I'm going to roll that up, and then I'm going to make the part that the actual watermelon part of it. So we'll get that rolled up. I've got also another rolling pin that my stepmom gave me too from her clay, and I'm really loving working with that. So I'm just making an oval shape here. I'm going to push this rind up against the edge, and then what I'll do is I'm going to take the other side of that tool. It has a knife on it, a little triangular shaped knife. And I'm cutting a V out here, and I'm going to pull my clay away, and I'll just take some time here pushing in the edges. And it's not really perfect or anything, but I thought, well, watermelon usually isn't perfectly shaped, so it would just look more natural. So I'm getting a little fussy, taking off the edges here and, trying to make it look a little bit more uniform. But my tool is coming in handy, and also my fingers too, but you don't want to really use your fingertips too much because they'll make big marks in them and fingerprints and all that. So I'm smoothing out with this tool that I just absolutely love. It's like a little scoop. It rounds everything out. So I'll just take that indentation and make that look like the actual rind. And then I've got this tool that has a pin on the end of it. Again, that's from my stepmom's collection. So I'm drawing just a faint line around that. That'll separate the other part of the rind where it has that sort of white translucent look and sort of see-through. So it'll be green and then lighter green, and then it'll have that white. So here we are. I'm satisfied with the way that looks so far. And I've got this gloss green, some black Craftsmart paint, and I've got some of the lighter green, and then that's red, and then some white acrylology from Dollar Tree. And I'm going to take my brush now. This has dried for about 3 days. I just made it first and I put it off to the side. That's the thing about air dry clay, is that it does take a long time to dry. So you have to really make what you're going to make days in advance from your project. But there's so many things I do like about it that I kind of don't. When you use the regular Sculpey clay, you have to bake it, and that's really no big deal either. But sometimes I just don't feel like going to my little oven and baking it. I don't know why, but sometimes I just don't want to. So I do like this, and I like the lightweightness of it and the look with it. I think it's just pretty easy to work with. And I'm just taking that lighter green that I had and then that darker green and making that line. And I do end up fussing over this a bit with the back and the front, and taking the time to let it dry. And that's the hard part for me sometimes, is to be patient for things to dry. So if I do take my time and plan properly, then it's not too bad. And what we'll do now is that white part that I talked about, I'm just going to lightly brush into there next to the green, which is still wet. So that'll pull some of that green, that light green in there, and give me that look that I'm going for. And then next, I decided that the red needed to be a little bit of a maybe more coral color, or just a lighter red. So I'm mixing this up so that I can get the color that I want. And a lot of my stuff on the tier tray didn't have exactly the same red. I didn't want to just pull all that through. Some of it, ended up being pink, and I just wanted a variation of what my items would look like. And here, I'm just going along. I noticed that if you try to go in one direction first on the white clay, that if you just try to stick in that, I don't always, but if you try to go in one direction, you can get it to dry. And then of course, I think it was probably maybe even 3 coats on this part. And I go back over and coat everything again, and then do my sides here and back. But when you're making your own items, you just have to take the time and know what you want. And sometimes it's just not handy to you, and sometimes it's not the size that you want, or you go out to find it and there's a package of them and there's 12 and it's $5 or something. So here I needed, really, for one of the cupcakes, I just really needed this one, and that was it. So I decided I'm going to get out that white clay and start making my stuff, because I end up spending more time sometimes looking for the exact item that I want, than I do making my crafts. So I've got more of this clay here, the air dry clay, and I'm rolling that up And here what I'm going to do is when I make the cupcake, I'm going to put these little dots are going to be the little kisses, chocolate chips. And I'm rolling them in a ball and just giving them a pinch at the end. And this was another thing too. You could probably get this on Temu, or you could probably get it on, AliExpress or something, or maybe even Michael's. I'm not sure. But this was something, I needed it. So, and I really only needed a few. So I thought, well, I'll just take out my air dry clay and put them together and make it. And it took a lot of time to try to get the round ball just right and the pinching and everything. It did take me some time, but once I got it, it went pretty smoothly. And I just had to keep conditioning it. You don't have to condition it as much as Sculpey clay, but you should still. You'll get a better object out of it. So, and here I'm taking my finger and just, this is sped up a little bit, but I'm taking my finger and just trying to pat that on the bottom to make them flat. And then I have this little foam, piece of spare foam, and I'm putting them on there. And what I'll do with those will take another couple days. I even think it was 3 days. You can see the back of the watermelon too. And that's my brown acrylology from Dollar Tree. And I also put little seeds with a Sharpie on my little watermelon. Sorry about that. My little watermelon slice. Okay. And then this brown paint from Dollar Tree, I'm just going to take that and paint these brown. And they will be the seeds, so they'll look good like that. I still want them to make it look like a fake bake, so I didn't want to make them black or put black seeds in. I guess I could have, but I just thought this would be cute. All right, and I'll just let those dry for a while. I've got my trusty Mod Podge, again from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to give this a little bit of top coat here. And this brush, I just love working with that brush. I got them years ago. I think it was on Amazon or something. I have a whole set of them, and I got the little daughters to go with them. And here I just have some of that Joann's glitter that I always use. This is the iridescent, and just sprinkling a little bit over that. And probably got a little bit carried away. But that little extra that's on that parchment paper, I'll take that later on and I'll put that back in because I savor everything. So I made this color. I didn't have the khaki color that I saw people using that make the fake baked cupcakes. So I made my own color, and it's supposed to really look like cake, and it didn't. It sort of looked like it here, but I just was missing that real yellowy color. And now that I look at it from above, I probably just should have left it the color that it was. It looked more like a cupcake there. But anyway, this was quite a learning experience. It really was. And I did enjoy making them, but every time, the first few times you make something, you may not always get it right. And this was just a little weird because when I was painting it, and I don't know if it was the paint that I was using, but I think I probably have some white Dollar Tree paint in there too that I mixed together. It was, I had shaved off the little ugly pieces, and it was like balling up, like bubbling. Really weird. Okay, so now we're going to let all that stuff dry. And now we're on to this. I have these two colors here. One's a metallic pink, and this is that light green. And it's by Craft Smart. And the beads, what I want to do is and just pour a little bit, and you can pour way less than that. And so I poured that in, and instead of painting the individual beads, this was another thing that I saw. I believe I saw this on TikTok. I just thought that would be a lot easier to get it done that way, but you don't need near as much that paint as you can see. You need a very little bit. And you can also do other tones too, put make it very watery and just make it like a dye instead of an actual paint color. There's a lot of things that you can do. You can get them to look stained with your acrylic paint. Acrylic paint and water you could do. So I'm dumping that out, and then I'm just going to spread these out on the plate, and I'll let them dry. And then this Craftsmart, this pink metallic, I'm going to take that and do the same thing with those beads. Okay, and I'm just showing the colors again. And this is my rolling pin. It's not one of the regular ones. This is 3D printed. I have some wood filament for my 3D printer, so I printed that. And I'm just taking that light green and painting the edge of these, you know, the handles first, because I want the handles green. And then I'm going to paint that metallic pink. I'm going to paint that, the actual roller tube part itself. I'm going to paint it with that metallic pink. And again, I'm using that fan brush. I just have such good luck with that fan brush, but you can use anything that you feel works for you, that you can get close to that edge. For some reason, that just seems to work for me. A detail brush would be fine too, a thinner detail brush, or a, you know, maybe a flat square brush could do this too. This, you know, as I said too before, I have a lot of this sped up because when it's a long video, and when you're painting, sometimes you're just not moving this fast, of course. So, but you know, I just want you to get the idea. And I always like seeing how people paint things. It does help me a lot in my crafts. I get so many little tips and tricks from people just by watching their whole video and watching them paint. I just love it. It's very soothing. And here I have this apparatus that I made here. It's just some foam that I had laying around. And I was trying to find a way to paint this without it rolling away on me. So I have a flat square brush here, and it's pretty tiny. And I use that not as a detailer as much, but just to kind of get a little tight curve, so to speak, so that I could get that line nice and crisp across, you know, the two colors. So what I'll do is I'll just keep going around until I get it just right. And I think that this rolling pin's a good size too. It's not too small, not too big, and it'll look really good on the tier tray. All right, so I'm just going to keep continuing on down and keep laying that paint. And then before I fill in, because I'm going to be holding it in the middle anyway, before I fill in, I'm just going to get the other edge. Okay, and now I'm in the situation where I can put that into my little holder, my makeshift holder there. And I can paint it now and paint it all around. Oh, I'll get my fan brush out. That'll give me a bit of a bigger area there. And this way I can get some paint on it so it will dry. It's hard to wait for things to dry, but I try to plan my projects so that I may start one thing and then I need to start another. So when I do the video, I try to piece them as close together as I can. Sometimes it's hard to do that. So here I'm taking a thicker Sharpie and I want to make some seeds on here. And I just am randomly placing them and turning them. And this is a craft that I saw on Jennifer's channel, Happiness is Homemade, and I loved it so much I just wanted to recreate it in my own way here. And this Sharpie, this is something too, a technique that I saw her do, and I would have been there with a tiny little paintbrush trying to make those seeds. So it was really helpful just to watch and see how other people handle things. That's all. And all the seeds are finished here, and I just think it came out so cute. It just looks adorable, and it's just the right addition to a tier tray. And I even see people with scoops and everything, and I haven't done any of the scoops or spoons. And here we jump into another craft. I do jump around, but this is going to be, there's a hot cocoa cup on the tier tray. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to make the topper for this. And it's going to be one of the faux whipped cream toppers. And what I'm doing now is I've cut out the shape. I've traced it and cut out the shape. And I'm going to take just some Dollar Tree glue I had laying around, and I'm going to glue that to that cardboard. And what that'll do is that'll help me be able to rotate it around. And that can also be wrapped in paper too. Wax paper, the little cardboard, but I didn't do that. So, and there's the lovely cupcake back in the picture again, so you can see how they came out. You know, I'll learn. And see, what I'm doing here is jumping back into the faux cupcakes. So this paint is actually called khaki, and it's an apple barrel paint. And that's what I had seen I saw, and I know I'm not going to say the name right, but Joanne Baranday. I saw her channel, and she was making the faux cupcakes, and she used this color, the khaki. I don't know if it was by apple barrel or not, but this is, I believe, the color that she used. So to me, that looks more like a cupcake. So we'll let that dry, and then we'll jump back over into this other topper. And you know, here we have to multitask between everything, so paint dries and all that. So here I'm going to take, I have my paper square, and then I'm going to take the styrofoam ball from Dollar Tree. I had them cut in half because these are what I use when I do the faux whipped cream. So hot glued that on, and what we'll do is we'll build that whipped cream topping on top of that ball. So you're not using all of your lightweight spackle, and that does save, and it gives you something to go on to be able to stack up the whipped cream or the whipped topping. I use Fast and Final. I do have a little something from Dollar Tree. I get that sometimes, but the Fast and Final seems to work the best. And then I've also heard other people use they're all by DAP. I think Gap and Crack is the other one, or Gap and Patch or something like that. They use that one too. But DAP seems to be the winner in this lightweight spackle area. So I'm trying to get that off. I've got an old spoon that I use, and I'm making my whipped topping here and just giving it a good stir. And I have that container that I wipe out when I'm done with it, and I do reuse it. So, and I can put the top on it too and keep it. I'm taking a little bit of this green gloss paint. It's a little bit of like a hunter green, and I'm putting that in. That may be too much. I did kind of get it a little watery, and not so much watery, but maybe not the best consistency for the faux topper. So I think food coloring, what I did was I went ahead and I purchased some food coloring. So next time I'm just going to use a tiny little drop of the food coloring. And I have my Wilton bags. I bought those at Walmart. They're the ones that are connected and has a star end on it. And this helps me because I'm pretty heavy-handed with this, still being new at it. So I have that, and it's built in, and I don't have to worry about attaching it or anything at this point. Maybe later I'll get better with it, and I can get the other bags. But for now, I've actually wiped this bag out, and I've used it a few times. So you just have to make sure you don't put it down the drain, because it'll mess up your drain. But if you wipe it out as good as you can, with a paper towel or just a towel or something, and just wipe it out, and like if it's a rag, just throw out the rag or something, but just don't put it down your drain because it will clog it when it dries. So I'm kind of kneading this stuff down to the bottom, the green whipped topping. And I'm going to take my bag here. I just made a little bit because I wasn't going to use much. So I'm going to just go around that border on my topper here. And I do remember right here that I can pick it up and I can turn it. So it gives me a little bit more of a hand on it, and I can keep it close to me. Okay, so I got my first ring and of my green, and I wanted to work with 2 colors. So I've got that pink craft metallic paint, and I put a tiny bit in there and mix it up. And this, I think, came out a lot thicker with this one, but still I really may have benefited from just some of the food coloring, really. I think that would just make more sense, a little small dot of it. And this way you have so many different colors of food coloring around, and then you can mix colors together too and make exactly what you need, so it could come in handy. And I've shown you that Wilton bag again. That's a new one. And I've mixed up my, I don't know why I keep forgetting the name of that stuff. My faux whip topping. And I have the glass that I use all the time, and I put that in. And I've got that all pushed to the bottom. I've got it wound up really good. And I'll just give it an extra couple little pumps there. All right, and then we'll start with our pink color here. And I remembered to lift it up because I kept forgetting to do that before. And then I'm just going to slowly go around, making sure that those 2 rows touch or overlap it a little bit, so you don't have that, see that white little cone part or the white little styrofoam. And we'll go around trying to make a straight peak. And again, that styrofoam ball gives me the guide that I need to stay centered. And I do get off track a little bit here because I don't have that guidance anymore. So let's do a little dollop and give it a push down, okay? And I do like the way that it came out. Right now I'm tapping it because it did go a little bit thicker on one side, but still it's kind of like a cupcake anyway, so it doesn't need to be perfect. And here is the ugly cupcake. Poor thing. And I've taken the top off of it. I figure, well, it's pretty ugly, so I'm just going to try to cover it up with this faux whip topping, or my whipped cream, as we would say. And so we've got this bottom layer, and I just tried to cover up the ugliness as best as I could. Oh, my goodness. What a mess. And these things are top heavy, very, very top heavy, because that glass, the filler itself, the gap and crack, is really lightweight. So there's really nothing holding it. So here I'm going around again on here and trying to just resurrect it as much as I can. I mean, just trying to get it back. And it didn't look too bad at the time here. And for some reason, I guess I just really didn't like the way it looked on the sides. So, and I felt like it started sagging a little to me. And watch this. Look at this. This is just, I'm learning. What can I say? It was it was just a mess. And just even it being, putting it down and it being top heavy, it was crazy. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to work with it. Not every cupcake is made evenly. And what I'll do is I have some green filament from my 3D printer, and I'm just going to cut up some green sprinkles, and then I'll cover that, area up at the very bottom, and we'll just see how it goes. And then for some reason, I'm a glutton for punishment here, and I try to do another one. And that one was it, well, you'll see. I have to explain it to you. But what a learning experience this was, man. All right, so we've got our first layer here. And then we'll go back in. And I did save the green as long as I could in those things, because you're just going to make, if we're going to make 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever, you want to put enough in there and then store it away while you're working, because this stuff does set up pretty quick for the most part. Oh, okay. So I'm gathering the rest of this pink faux whip topping, and I'm going to knead the bag and squeeze as much as I can to the bottom and just see if I can get something a little bit more decent. And the whole time that I'm working on these, everybody, they are leaning forward. They're just, and this one probably should have been taped down too. It's not even taped down. So in the wrapper itself, I probably should have hot glued it, now I know, but in the wrapper itself, and I missed a spot over there, it is falling. You see, it's just falling over. So I see the spot, and I decide, okay, let me go back and fill that in. So not bad, right? It's okay. We could use it. You know, it'll work. Not my favorite, but we'll see. And yeah, see, it's just teetering. It's just falling, slipping forward into the wrapper. But this is just the way that I learn. You know, I watch other people and everything, and I still have that foil wrapper on it there, and it is just falling forward. Okay, so you'll see it's not there. I'm putting glitter on this one now, the iridescent glitter from Joann's. But you notice that cupcake is not there. Well, what happened was I stood up and I hit my desk, and that thing rolled and fell onto the floor. So it's gone. That was completely the end of it. So we were stuck with topsy-turvy here. So we're gonna go with it. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But that's what I was left with. The next time what I'll do too is I'll try to watch more people, and I had heard somebody say that you should put washers down in the bottom instead, and maybe that'll work, and maybe not. Maybe I won't fill them up so much next time. We'll work on it and see what we can do. And so for now, this is what we're going with. We're going to do this, and these are still wet, and I've got those little fake bake kisses there, or chocolate chips, and I'm going to use those as the seeds, and I'm just going to put a few on there. And I've picked out what I'm going to use as the front of my cupcake because I felt like I had a little bit more room to decorate there. And then as far as my topper for my mug, I did the same thing. I picked a front that, I thought would work good and what I felt looked the best. So I'll use that as my front. And there we go. We've got our little chocolate drops on. And I think they look really cute despite all of the other events. All right. And these are from Dollar Tree. I happened to just pass by these one day. And I thought, well, these would be really great just to put on. And it'll give it almost the look of a little soft look, but almost the look of little bubbles. And it could even be looked at as maybe, the little water on the watermelon, the water droplets or something. And so these are a bit sticky and they are stuck together, but you can pull them apart and then you just have to get them off of your fingers. And it took me a little bit, but I got them on there. And you see sometimes they bunch of them will stick to you, but you can get them on. There's a you probably could even use the tweezers or something, but this just seemed like it eventually, you know, gets on there. And I felt I had a little more control. But look at how pretty. I zoomed in a little bit. Look at how pretty they look. What a difference that they make. Just that extra little touch. And here, this is another 3D printing item. I couldn't find one in the store or anything. So I 3D printed that out of wood filament. And then I've got these 3 colors that I'm going to use with the white. So the colors that I've been using all along are the green, the light green, the red, and the white. And then some black too. But this, I've got my paint poured here. And I want this to look like half of a watermelon slice. So I'm going to start out with my white and just make that line around. And what this will do, this little piece is going to go on the end of the beaded garland. And those were the beads that I made earlier that are going to be made into the garland. And it, you know, it's just really difficult to make, to find these slices. I did later on, after I made this, I did find them on Temu, the little slices. I found everything on Temu. Oh my goodness. And I haven't ordered those yet, but I found slices. So I'm going to order slices and make sure that I have those on hand because they were really cheap. I mean, it was, I think it was almost $1.50 or $1.38 or something like that for 6 of them. So that is, I'm going to keep them in my mind and keep them in my cart and just go along and keep, you know, putting supplies in as I need them. The Temu right now just seems to be working out really good for the supplies. But if I don't have it, I either try to 3D print it or I try to find something around the house that's shaped like it and I paint it. Okay, so I've got the 3 colors of green here. And there, you know, everything's wet, so I use that wet paint to blend everything in. And I do have a cup of water off to the side and I'm wiping that paint off. And now I'm going to mix this red and try to get that color that I like for the melon part, that reddish melon. And I put a little bit of white in it and just keep mixing it around to see if I can get the color that I want. And now that that's mixed up, I'll fill in with my red here. I'll add a camera a little bit out of the lens. Let me see if I can. Okay. All right, and then that part is just going to be that red. And I try to get the edges in. And this will take a bit to dry too. It doesn't automatically do what you want it to do per se. Like dry right away. It will, you know, take a little bit to dry. So I'll put that off to the side and then I will eventually paint that the back of it green. And here's our beads. What I did was I took them out of I dried them on the plate. Now I took these, I did put them on skewers because there were just little white spots that I didn't like from the plate. So I just touched them up a little bit and tried not to get too crazy with them, but I just wanted them to look a little bit more finished. And I felt that they just looked a little bit undone. So I cleaned them up a bit. And then here what I'm doing is, you know, I'm definitely not a professional tassel maker here. So I'm taking my twine from Dollar Tree and I'm just wrapping it around my hand there. And I didn't catch it really good here on camera, but I just really took that off of my hand. And I'm tying this loop at the top here. I may have been better off without that, but for some reason it gave me a sense of security here. But it really became that it was in my way. So I've got my loop here. I'm going to take some extra string, and when I used to do macrame, when I would make a plant hanger or something, I would make this loop. And it's hard to see here, it's hard for me to show you, but the loop is upside down. And then what I do is I leave the two loops up towards the top, and then I'll take my string and I'll just wrap it and just keep wrapping it around, pulling it tight and wrapping it around. And that'll give me that little piece on the tassel there, the wrap. And then just keep going around, pulling a little taut. And then as you get to the end, you'll have that loop at the end. So I'm looping that string back through that bottom loop. And then I'm going to take those two pieces and I'm going to pull that piece right through and pull it tight. And there you go. That'll be your tassel wrapped piece there. And then I'm just going to cut off the end. And then I still have those two pieces that are kind of needed but in the way a little bit. And we'll do some trimming. I trimmed off another piece that was just straggly. And then we just cut through the bottom. And that'll give us our little tassels. And then I'll give it a haircut, trim it up, get it even. All right, and there we have our tassel for our beads. And give it a little bit more of a trim just to get it nice. And I see some people sometimes they'll take a lighter to it, and I just didn't have one handy, so I just let it be frizzy. And there we go. A nice new tassel. And now we'll start with our beads. I've got a needle, a very large needle, and it just was in my leather making kit. And that helps get the beads on. It just makes it easier than having to deal with it, one by one. So I'm tying a knot here onto the end of my tassel. All right, and then I'm leaving that ball out there nice and long. And then I'll get to a certain point, I'll measure about how long I want it and figure that out, and then I'll cut it. And really I'm just measuring things out, trying to get a feel for how long I need it. And then we'll thread the needle. All right, and then I'm going to do an alternate pattern with the beads. They're going to be green and then the pinkish color, pink metallic. And I'll do a nice alteration pattern. And as they get down to the end, as you push them, you can do, before you keep pushing them down, you can do a few of them. And then here we are, we've got all of our beads on. Just finish up those last few. And boy, does that needle come in handy, because I haven't always used it, and it's great. All right, and our end slice of our watermelon is going to go on here. All right, and what we'll do now is we've got this extra piece left out, and instead of just cutting it off there, which you could, I decided I would just push it back into the beads there, just so it was hidden, but you can cut it. I just felt it was better. Give a little bit more reinforcement, and you really don't even have to go up this far, but I decided to do that. Okay, and then we'll put it through one more time, and there we go. And then we'll just trim it. All right. Oh, I like the way that looks. That looks pretty. And there we go. We've got all our beads on, tassel done. And then we're jumping over into another project because we're waiting for that watermelon slice to dry. So I found this fabric. I got caught in a rainstorm one night at Michael's. Oh, it actually was a hailstorm. And nobody really could leave because it was crazy outside. So we all decided to hunker down and hang out. And I found this fabric. Normally, I would just pass it by and say, oh, maybe next time. But I was in the store so long, so I grabbed it. And I'm going to make a little pillow with this. And this is a piece of cardboard that came with it. So that's about how big maybe I want my pillow to be, maybe a little bigger. So I'm just going to take my fabric scissors here and cut out. I've got this fabric doubled. And I'm just going to cut out what size I think. And I am going to hot glue it too. And I have seen also that there is fabric glue for the hot glue gun. And I think I've seen it before, but I really think I need to get some of that because I do glue a lot of fabric together. I make a lot of pillows. So either big pillows, small pillows, and everything. So I've got my two pieces here. I'm going to put the right sides together. Okay, and then I'm just giving it a little hand press there. I'm not going to really do a regular press. And got my handy dandy glue gun and my little finger protectors on, and I'm just going to go through and glue down those edges. And then what we will do is that we have to leave a little opening because we're going to stuff it. But this is nice too, to be able to make something quick without getting out the sewing machine and everything. And I don't mind that, but I've actually really liked to not always have to do that. I do like being able to do this, but I think that fabric glue would be an awesome idea. All right, and I left my little opening, and I have some stuffing laying around. I'm going to do this, put this right side out. And I do have some stuffing from an old pillow that I've been holding on to. And I'm just going to use that stuffing for this little pillow. I like to put little pillows on my tier tray because I feel like it gives it a little bit extra dimension and some softness. And you can bring a lot of color in with a little pillow. And I'm taking a pencil that has a decent eraser on it, and I'm just going into those edges, just like you would do if you hand sewed it or if you sewed it on a machine. And then I'll go through and just make sure everything looks good. All right, and then up a couple extra pushes in the corner here, and I think that looks pretty good. So here's our stuffing. We'll get our stuffing in. And the first thing I usually do with stuffing is I try to get it into the corners because I feel that that helps you figure out how much you need. All right, and now that's all stuffed, we're going to close it up, and I'm just going to put a little bit of hot glue on that opening. I got all my finger protectors on because this always burns me, so it's always painful. So I better put something on them and not have a burn mark later. But that gets hot. All right, and I have a little piece sticking out, so I'm just taking the pencil and sticking it in. And then I'm just going to hold it until it all seals shut. And then I'll move that filler around so that I can get my pillow, with give it a good shape. So not bad for some hot glue and a cut square. And then I've had this from Dollar Tree, and I've used it for so many different things. It's really cute. And they had it around Christmas time, so I grabbed a bunch of it because I knew it would just come in handy. And for $1.25, there was a lot of it. It was a very nice, it was a card filled with it. It was really nice. And I had, red and I had green. So as soon as I saw it, I stocked up because I knew it was going to be gone. You got to get that stuff quick when you see it. All right. And I'm just going to put a little bit of hot glue. On the corners, I just do a little bit at a time. And then when I go into the edge there, I'll just put a little bit more. But the corners could be a little tricky. You want to make sure that you get them just right. And put a little extra hot glue on that corner and hold that down. A little bit more. Oh, it looks like I got a little bit extra on there, but as it dries, it'll be easier to pull it off. All right, and I finished that up. And here's my book stack. And I just painted it with 3 different colors. Colors that looked like a watermelon. And then I had printed out this in this skinny font with my Cricut, the words watermelon. And I'm lining that up. And it was off a little bit. What I tried to do with the words on the books is I put them close to the end. And then I've got my little scraper from Dollar Tree, which I love. It's just the perfect size. And it works for so many different things. So I'm going to get that down. And then I'll just take a little bit at a time and lift it off. I just have it on transfer tape. All right, I think that looks good. I like that color too. And then I'll just go and finish up the books. And here, I put some styrofoam in the bottom here and some green filler. And then I had some of this pink spray paint. It's glittery. And I spray painted that. And I had a bow laying around. I actually used frog tape to tape that off and spray it. And then I had some vinyl. I had black vinyl. And I went on my Cricut. I drew out some seeds and in Inkscape. And then brought them into my Cricut. I just made tear shapes. That's what it looks like, teardrops. And then I put those on so it looked like watermelon. And here I have some 3D printed watermelons, and I'm just going to put those at the top of the straws in that watermelon jar. And I used white, red, and green to paint them. And here's another look how everything came out. And we've got that watermelon market, that is separate that I did, but then also the watermelon gumball machine is separate from the tier tray. And the little hat I did on a knitting machine, and that's something else that I'm learning how to do, and making pom-poms. The watermelon picture is sublimation, and I got that picture from Creative Fabrica. And then there you'll see our little rolling pin and our garland and our cupcake and our topper. It did survive. And I put a little straw in it. I've got some lights, and then I've got Farm Fresh watermelon books. And then at the end it says summer fun at the end of our garland. And there's our pillow. And then I'm just panning over a little bit to show you. Those are 3D printed items on that tray. And then the booth is 3D printed also. And mostly everything in there is 3D printed and painted, but that's just something that I put on my tablescape there along with the watermelon gumball machine. And I love the way that the tablescape looks and the way that the gumball machine came out, and they were just 3D printed, painted separately. And I put a little bit of that gingham garland around it. I thought that would give it some color. You'll see our jar up there, and then the other cupcake up at the very top. You can see the little watermelon slices. We hope you enjoyed and learned a lot from the making of this watermelon tier tray video. We sure loved making this tier tray. And we also learned what not to do and what to do next time when making fake bakes. Thanks so much for watching our video today. We appreciate you so very much. And as always, we will see you in the next one. Thanks again for watching.